Hi, and welcome back to Spark Outbound Live. I'm Jonathan Sellers, CEO and founder of Spark Outbound. And on our channel, we talk about lead generation, digital marketing, B2B sales strategies and tactics. And today we're going to kick off a series that we're going to do around LinkedIn over the next few weeks. But we really want to talk about why, if you're in a position right now where you're trying to figure out what should be your next step, where should you be focusing your energy in 2021, if maybe things have changed from you through 2020, and you're trying to figure out what maybe you need to do as an additional step or a new direction to head in from some of your previous efforts that maybe not be available if you focus on events, for instance, or maybe not so happy with digital advertising results, things like this. So where should you be focusing your energy? And so today we're really going to talk about why LinkedIn maybe should be that starting point. So joining me today is our digital outreach director, Whitney Presley,
Hi.
and our director of operations, Simone Bowyer.
Hi.
We're going to be talking about, we're just going to be having a discussion around this and some of the things that we've noticed, or, when we discuss with our clients or prospects and they're explaining to us what they've been doing in the past or the challenges they're seeing right now, what we've seen over and over that maybe leads a lot of people to choose LinkedIn as an area to put their focus, spend resources, spend time, uh, and really put effort in to grow your reach and authority. And then at the end of the day, hopefully that results in finding new clients. Um, as I said, our channel is all about B2B lead gen, digital marketing, sales, tactics and strategies and ideas. And so if you're interested in this type of content, make sure that you subscribe to our channel, click the notification bell so when we go live or when we post a new video, you'll get a notification. And as always, feel free to comment, like, or share. We really appreciate that, and we'll be happy to answer any comments that you may have. So we wanted to get today kicked off talking about kind of some of the basics around, why is LinkedIn really a good choice? And so I wanted to throw it to Whitney first, and just talk about, if you're a B2B service provider and you have this really specific audience and really specific targeting, you want to reach people in specific type of companies, sizes of companies, you need to reach these specific contact levels, titles within those companies. Why is LinkedIn a good spot to start, Whitney?
So LinkedIn has basically an upgrade called LinkedIn Sales Navigator, and it's incredibly useful for this reason. It basically lets you target people in specific roles, specifically B2B people. So not just everyone. It starts by even narrowing the your search down to B2B. And then lets you target people in specific roles with specific titles, in specific locations, regions. You can even, target by zip code, that type of thing. You can, there's just so many search fields and like criteria that you can choose from, and that allows you to narrow down your audience. So it's a huge selling point for for B2B companies. Where do you start? Like, definitely LinkedIn for that reason.
Very cool. So Simone, if I was going to ask you, as you work with our digital strategists and building audiences for campaigns on LinkedIn, what are some of the key things that you found that LinkedIn gives you the ability to do when refining your audience?
So I think one of the things that is really great about LinkedIn is that first it is a network, of professionals, and the majority of them are active users on the platform. So with the premium upgrade, like as Whitney mentioned, LinkedIn Sales Navigator, there are also other ones. One can really be really specific when it comes to the person that you're wanting to target. It can really help you get in touch with the decision makers at the end of the day. And I know Whitney has mentioned a few of the search criteria, but we can go look into specific companies or specific titles, seniority levels, locations, company size, industries. So there really is such a variety of search criteria that we can use to really, really narrow down the audience to be really, really specific to one's ideal target, I guess.
Exactly. So, yeah, so I think, the specificity is key. And so there is, just to be clear, there is search criteria available if you don't upgrade to a premium option, but you do get so much more depending on your goals with the premium option. So Sales Navigator, if you're looking for clients. And so, as Whitney and Simone both mentioned, there's all these levels of refinement to be able to search for people within the network. And so you're looking at the titles, you're looking at the seniority levels, you're looking at the location, the industries, even things like when someone joined LinkedIn, what type of groups they may be in on LinkedIn. So you can get very, very, very specific. Even when you're doing a search, you can even see people who are active on LinkedIn. So people who've made posts within a certain time period or changed jobs within a certain time period and things like that. So it really helps when you know who your audience is. It gives you the ability to find those people. So at the beginning, I think that's the first step is who you want to work with. And so LinkedIn and then the advanced premium options give you the ability to find that audience, those specific people that fit those criteria. There's also versions for recruiters and things like that if you're looking to find people to hire, and that one gives you different criteria, different search parameters based off the goal of hiring versus the goal of doing business. So yeah, so I mean I think I think Simone, you said something important. It is a social network, so people define themselves this way. So you go on there and you build your profile and you say, I am, sales director for this company. And then these are the previous companies that I've worked for. So you really get like a professional profile around the prospect, if that's your prospect, if that's who you're going for. So I think that's really important. And so then the next natural step of that is, so once you know who your audience is, and so now you have this ability to find these people, it is connecting to those people. So building a relationship. So when you think about connecting, what does that mean? I mean, obviously we know, like, we have Facebook, we have LinkedIn, we have Twitter, all these other social networks. They all call it something different, but it's a connection on LinkedIn. So Simone, like, what is a connection? What does that mean? What's the value behind having the connection?
Sorry. Well, I think to start with, it is connecting with people that one has defined as their ideal target. And then once sort of making that connection, it's really, I feel it's a relationship that one nurtures. You build a relationship with this person. And once connected, you can message with them directly, immediately. You can also engage in content that they share. They can also view content that you share. And you can really start to build a relationship and build credibility, I think, as an individual on LinkedIn.
And so, yeah, perfect. And so, Whitney, I think we talk about a lot. I think the difference between LinkedIn and some other things that you can do, especially from keeping in mind the purpose of this conversation is if we're in B2B sales or business development and we're trying to figure out how do we go, what do we do? We need to change, we need to pivot, we need to start something new. So what do we do? We talk about a lot the long-term value of the connection on LinkedIn. So could you give some insight into what I know we talk about it to our clients and prospects, but can you just explain what we mean by the long-term value of the connection?
Definitely. So not only is there the relationship side of the value of the connection, so you once you connect with someone, you get to build a relationship with them. You have now the opportunity. They go from a stranger to part of your community, and you can share not only your content with them, but you can see their content. And so it really is. I think the most valuable part of a connection is that. But just to throw some stats at you, 4 out of 5 members on LinkedIn are actually decision makers at their own not at their own company, at the company they work for. LinkedIn users are also 4 times more likely to visit your site than other large social network, say ads or something. And so that's something that usually happens when we send out when you send out a connection request, this person will generally check you out real quick. So, they'll check out your profile, see your website, they'll check out the website. And so that's obviously a great way to build your traffic. And then LinkedIn members actually convert to leads at a rate of 3 times higher than Facebook, if we're mentioning that by name. But yeah, so of course, like I said, we think that the biggest value of a connection is just the potential of having a relationship with that person or building a relationship with that person. And then, like I said, aside from that, the business perspective of it, those stats just support that LinkedIn is really the best starting point in our opinion, or my opinion.
It is a starting point, and we have no hate towards Facebook. I just want to point that out. So, but anyway, I'm just joking. But I would say, we also run Facebook ads for some of our clients. And I would say, the purpose of this video is not to say LinkedIn is the only place you should be focusing, but it's to say that if you had to prioritize or start from scratch, we would probably recommend most B2B businesses this would be the starting point. It's a great entry point. There's a lot of logical reasons why you would want to put your time and effort there. And I think another piece of that is, both Simone and Whitney just mentioned this, but I would say another valuable feature, I guess, of LinkedIn is the ability to share your content. Obviously the natural way to share it is like you're making posts or you're posting articles within the LinkedIn network, but you're essentially having the ability to take this audience that you're building and then get this messaging out there. And so there's a lot of people out there who have different philosophies around the most effective ways to share your content and format your posts and things like that. And I think that changes regularly. So we won't go into any of that now, but the point is you could make a post, and if it resonates with the audience, literally it could go viral and thousands of people can see that post. And so gain awareness of you and or your business, and just open the door, just depending on what it is that you're posting. That capacity is always there, and that's the social network aspect of it. I think for us too, we use it with our clients. We do outreach campaigns for clients on LinkedIn. And so one of the things that we do as part of our campaigns is we share content as part of the outreach campaign. So Simone, what are some of the, I guess, just from a general perspective, what are some of the things that we've seen? What types of content have we seen to be effective when sharing as part of an outreach campaign?
I think there's a variety of things that we've noticed can be of benefit. And I think more and more we're seeing, being able to offer a connection, sort of a video to YouTube or a blog post that you may have created, even if it's not on LinkedIn, if it's on another platform, sharing those links with your connections, regardless of what platform or format they are, sharing as much as you can with your connections. And I think definitely of late, I have noticed definitely an increase in connections being open to viewing video content. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I think if you do have video content that it can be a huge, so in general, so just forget even this conversation at all, just in general, video content can be a huge asset in explaining what you do and what your benefit statements are and things like that. Why should somebody want to do business with you? But like what Simone's saying, it's also easily shareable if you have, if it's posted on YouTube or if it's hosted on Vimeo or wherever you host, and you just have a link you can share as you're building this relationship with this person. It doesn't even have to be, and maybe shouldn't even be promotional always. It can just be informational and value add type posts. And so, you can share that essentially directly through messages with your contacts. And so it does go back to what I think we mentioned at the very beginning about building the relationship and building credibility and building authority through just providing something of value to your audience with really no ask in return. And then obviously there's the potential to ask in return. Whitney, what are I guess maybe just thinking from this perspective, what are maybe some concerns with sharing content, or maybe best practices that we've seen with, the order of how you would send that content over, like the messaging strategies, or like how do you, from all the campaigns that you're seeing, what seems to be getting the best results?
Okay, so as far as some concerns that we've had with messaging, or things that we have learned from our testing, I think a lot of clients, of course, clients have different personalities. So some clients are, more maybe aggressive salespeople that, they want, maybe it's like a fast cycle, or maybe more transactional or something, but they want, to be more direct, and that's totally great. And then some clients are maybe in it for, more of the relationship or the long-term type of messaging. So we've encountered both. We've kind of tested both strategies, and what we find is that approaching a person, we're asking them the connection request, asking them to connect, and from there, basically, we would recommend to actually build a long-term relationship, with them, sort of more content-based, sharing your informational, educational type of approach. And so sharing important things with them that you think would benefit them. And so that's really, for our company, that's really, like, we feel really strongly about this approach, because it's not only with a long-term focus, it's definitely less transactional, less kind of one-off type of client, I guess. But especially just kind of bringing in what we do, I think really benefits and supports the vision of someone who wants to build a community with their prospects. So someone like that, that's, really going to be beneficial to get tied into LinkedIn, because like I said, it's a community. I think that's the beauty of it, is that you can also, even if you don't know your audience, you can use LinkedIn to find it. Because if you're sharing your content, you're putting out what you guys are, what you're doing out, people who are, interested in you and what you're doing will come to you. So even if, you don't have a community or you're starting from scratch, if you go to LinkedIn first as, your starting point, then it's a huge opportunity for you to have help to, find your audience, build your audience. And even if you already have a huge audience and you're, a huge brand, to then, to add value to your prospects, to your clients. So
Yeah, so it's kind of it's two both ways, right? So it's not like you're just going on there just giving value or just getting sales. It's also people that can provide value to you are also there. And so you can learn, things you can get feedback from people. They have polls and things like that. So from the content perspective, and then even when you're sharing it directly, I think one thing is there's some merit to asking for permission. So in almost in the same way where people opt in to email or opt in to various other marketing channels, it's even though you have the connection, I think there's sometimes where it makes sense to just ask somebody, do they want to see some content, right? And just getting that yes, getting the approval can go a long way to getting them to actually engage with the content when you share it over, and will make them, I think, more likely to give you feedback on it, which at the end of the day, the whole goal is to start the conversation and keep the conversation going. So I think, anything that you can do to break down those barriers, because certain people have different communication styles or view. What's really interesting is when people will essentially, this is kind of like a common thing. LinkedIn actually just sent out a series of emails about like how to use LinkedIn or how they think you should use LinkedIn or whatever. And it's really interesting now because a lot of people will come on to LinkedIn, and when people post content or when people message people or something like that, people will essentially lecture you that you're not using LinkedIn correctly. You know, like you shouldn't post this type of content on LinkedIn because this isn't what LinkedIn is for. Or you shouldn't try to sell on LinkedIn because LinkedIn isn't for selling. Or it's like all these crazy, in my opinion, crazy ideas just because LinkedIn, there's hundreds of millions of people on LinkedIn from all around the world, and it's a business network. So I would say there's thousands of different types of businesses that are, representatives of those businesses are on there. So I would say just in general, LinkedIn can be used many, many, many different ways. And so it's really about, I think, being respectful and trying to provide value, and then, maybe even acknowledging the value that you're receiving. It's just generally about having, good, relationship with the community, I think, or even outside of your prospects or your audience, but just in general the bigger community. There's other people that maybe you're their prospect, and you can maybe be a referral for them. You can pass them along to somebody if you don't need their help, or you could just get some interesting information. Like there's plenty of times where I've seen people who we are not in the market. Spark Outbound does not need their services in the sense that we don't need to hire them to do the services, but there are things that they share that are relevant to us. And so there's countless times where I've found information that has helped us make business decisions from somebody who just shared information. In the future, as we grow, we may come back to those same people because of that and say like, okay, now we're at a point where we do need somebody to actually take this over, whatever the case may be. And I know you're somebody who may be a good fit for that. So I think the last big thing, really to talk about after content is kind of what we do. So at Spark Outbound, we do lead generation as a service. And so one of the things we do is LinkedIn outreach and LinkedIn lead generation. And so that involves, now that you found your audience, you built the connection, you've created some compelling content or some compelling reason for these people to want to speak to you, and now you actually have the capability, because you're connected to them, to directly message them. And so we've hinted at it with some of the things about sharing content, but I think at the core of it, that's one of the most, it's crazy, right? It's crazy that you could go and create an account theoretically for free, unless you upgrade to Sales Navigator, but you could create an account for free where you have access to over 200 million people, and you know what their job is, and you know what companies they work for, and you can go directly to them and try to build a relationship to then help them, to have them become your client, and you work with them or work for them. Or you could find a job, working at your dream company, and you could find the contacts there. It's crazy that LinkedIn gives you this capability, and that it gives you the capability to directly message people. So I want to talk about a couple things around this. So number one is, I think, there's obviously the opportunity, like I said, to reach out to anybody who's your connection. But I think there's some etiquette or some best practices that we've found, or we use and we recommend to our clients, so you do continue that, general goodwill and good nature in the community. And so, Simone, what are some of the things that we do as far as like frequency of messaging and like the approach, how we engage with people, that we think helps with that, helps make a better relationship from the beginning?
Definitely. I think, firstly, I feel that, the approach we use is very personable to start with. It's not a one size fits all. And LinkedIn kind of allows you to build that more personal relationship with someone. And you have mentioned before as well, we'll send out a connection request, and then once that is accepted, it'll be a few days before we engage with the person, with the contact again. And you did mention it, but also asking, is it okay for us to share content with you? Getting that permission, and then continuing. So really kind of taking it slowly in a way, really building, taking time to nurture and build that relationship with someone, not bombarding them with 100 messages a day with all sorts of content to view and a whole lot of questions. It's a lot more, slower, and I guess there's a structure to it. And ultimately, I think what we have seen is, we don't have to send long messages full of content to someone to spark their interest. A short copy is just as effective. Slowly building that relationship, just checking in. Can I send you something? If not, that's also okay. And I think, as I said, it is personable. And I think for each person and each company, it is going to be quite different, the approach you take. But ultimately, we do still have the I guess, etiquette, like you said, of how we go about doing things.
Yeah, perfect. So Whitney, and I know we've ran a lot of these campaigns for clients across across LinkedIn. Also, we've done something similar, email outreach. We've ran so many campaigns for companies trying to generate conversations with emails. So I think something that's important to keep in mind is the consistency factor. And what I'd like to get from you, because I know you've been so closely involved in a lot of these campaigns, is just some perspective on maybe how many messages do you have to send to people to actually get the response? And, maybe some thoughts around, is one message enough? Is five messages too many? Just like what can you share? I think that would be valuable around the expectation for, what does it look like? Is it just connect and send a message and give up, or what are your thoughts around that?
Yeah, so I definitely think that how our approach is that we think that it's much better to invest in a long-term approach, a long-term building relationships type of approach, rather than like as Simone mentioned, just kind of bombarding people with these different messages. So what we're trying to do here is basically to help our clients to build relationships at scale. So my response would be it depends, because there's shorter copy, shorter, more like easily digestible, more easily readable messaging is definitely what you want to put out there to people. So if, especially something we learned is that, for example, on LinkedIn, if you have it on your phone, if you're using on your phone, if you're sending a longer copy to someone, you're going to have to scroll many, many, many times, to be able for that person to read your whole message. And so, that's one thing to keep in mind. But I think my biggest takeaway from all of my experience in doing this is testing, because there's nothing that, no numbers that I could say that is, expect this. From our approach, we do take a longer term approach. Like I said, our goal is to help our clients to build their relationships, but at scale. But that means more, not necessarily more frequent touches, but just, like I said, over a longer term approach, sharing things, just building the relationship. So I would have to say that it depends. It's testing what works for your audience. Every audience is going to respond differently to different messaging. And so, if back to kind of the idea of, LinkedIn being cost effective, if you're someone who's ready to invest in outreach or LinkedIn Sales Navigator, then there are services that can help you to do that. If you think it's completely overwhelming or something, and you're not sure where to start, you're not sure how you're going to handle all these messages, you want to build relationships, you want to have those long-term relationships with people, but it is a lot of work. And so if you're ready to, someone who's going into this year, like, we're ready to take on the opportunities, then, start at LinkedIn.
Yeah, for sure. And I think you hit on several things there. I think one thing so with the long-term approach, the reason for that, in simple terms, is just because people respond at different points of the cycle or the sequence, if you want to look at it like a sequence. When we talk about email outreach, by and large, like hands down, the most responses come on the second email of almost every sequence we ever do. With LinkedIn, it's not always the same thing. So you're going to get people, some people respond to you when you send a connection request and they say things like, great to connect. And so the conversation immediately starts from there. Some people just accept the request and then you send them whatever your first message is, and some percentage of people respond there. Some people respond when you send them a follow-up a few days later or a week later, and so on and so forth. And some people don't respond, like, and once again, Whitney, I think, hit a valid point, like, or Simone, I'm not sure, but we don't recommend that you just keep sending people messages all the time, like, especially if they're not responding. But it is valuable to occasionally just touch base with people, if they have not responded, and doing that with value, so I think there's a part of the relationship, and this goes to general sales psychology or market analysis, I guess, where there's about 3% of your target audience at any given time they need what you have and they're looking to buy it right now. There's another 17% who is generally aware that they could need what you have. They're not necessarily like actively looking, but if they found a solution, they may purchase. And then essentially the rest of the people either are in between two groups of, they don't know they need it, but maybe they could, or they absolutely don't need it. And that's the vast majority of people. So a lot of people are trying to get that 3%. Like, that's what, when you're running ads, right? People are searching for what you have. That's the 3%. So there's a huge number of people competing for that 3% from every angle, from ads, from doing outbound sales activities, creating content to try to get people to their sites. Like, that's the battle, is that 3%. The 17%, using an effective long-term outreach strategy, can take that 17% and drive them to you when they become part of the 3%, because you have the relationship. It's not it They won't even go into that same, necessarily the same cycle that these other people are in doing their research, because they've come to trust you and understand that you're the person to help them. And then it's maybe getting that other group that could use you, but they don't know it yet, pushing them into the 17%. So it's more of what this phrase is used a lot in email marketing, but it's more of a nurturing type campaign, a nurture campaign. It's just, you're engaging people over a period of a time, maybe it's only once a month even, just sending them some type of message, just ask them a question. I think that's the biggest thing where um, it's hard for people to wrap their heads around doing outbound activities where I'm not selling something every time I'm talking to somebody. And if you were doing outbound activities by picking up the phone and calling people all day, it's really hard to think about, why would I call somebody and just tell them about some news that happened in our industry? That would be such a waste of time, right? But this is where you think about using LinkedIn and using some technology and using a strategic approach, that really allows you to do those type of things, that it's almost like unexpected. You're catching people off guard that would not, once again, going back to communication preferences, people that will never, their attitude is, I'll never respond to somebody who pitches me, right? People have these strong opinions. um, it's potential that you can take that person, and through a strategic approach, you can make it where they don't feel actually that you are pitching them anymore, that you truly are building the relationship, and that's what you're doing. We get it a lot. So I would say at least 3 or 4 times a month, I talk to somebody who becomes a prospect of us, and goes through, a sales demonstration or whatever the case may be, who says to me literally, I never ever respond to these messages, but because of, XYZ, whatever it was that they received from us, they decided that at this time they would actually investigate this. And so it really, when you look at it at scale and when you look at it with consistency, which are two critical components to this, is scale and consistency, doing this every day, 5 days a week or 7 days a week, whatever, not letting it stop, um, and then, doing enough of that activity over the course of months and years, you grow a very solid, powerful network. And then when you add in other channels, which that's kind of like the next step. If LinkedIn is the first step and you're trying to decide where you should put your effort, and LinkedIn is the first step, then once you establish yourself there and you start getting some success, and you look at what do I do next, then you can start adding in other channels like digital advertising, like adding in email outreach or another phone, based outreach, some other type of channel there to amplify, increase the results of the conversations that you're having. So I hope if somebody was on the fence with, do I spend some money on Facebook ads and try to figure that out, or do I go and run Google ads and try to figure that out? And I am emphasizing that we do those things. So trust me when I say, if you're going to go try to figure it out, it will be an expensive lesson in the B2B lead generation space. And if you're trying to figure out, should I do cold calling on the phone? I'm not saying that any of those things are wrong. But what we're just suggesting today is that if you don't know and you're not actively putting in effort in LinkedIn in 2021, you should probably seriously consider, how that could really change your business potentially and help you really open up a lot more doors, uh, get a lot more conversations going, get feedback that you can use to then take to some of these other channels and be more prepared, because you have a lot more understanding of what the market thinks about what you offer, versus testing that out by paying per click or paying per whatever the case is, from these other channels. So I wanted to wrap up by just asking Whitney or Simone or both, if either of you have any kind of final thoughts that you'd like to share on why somebody should consider LinkedIn from your perspective.
Could I make a comment based on sort of what you're talking about in terms of the value of building a longer term relationship with
Sure.
with someone? So I think a great example of this is if we take the past year and COVID. If one had gone with the approach of, from the very beginning, just trying to sell something, sell your product, sell your service, whatever it may be, chances are you would have got a lot of no's, not interested. And that was as a result of kind of the state of the world, I guess, at the time. Whereas if one had taken sort of a more longer term approach and really nurtured that relationship and continued to reach out, over the course of the year, as Jonathan explained a little bit earlier, there's a bigger chance that actually they will at some point be ready to purchase that service or that product, and then reach out to you because you have maintained that relationship. And I think we've definitely seen that. I know we have a client that we spoke to recently, who themselves said, we reached out to them last year and it just was not the right time for them with COVID and politics and, everything that was going on. And they heard from us at the beginning of this year and it was the right time. So I think we definitely have a lot of real life examples that kind of support that approach.
Exactly.
Yeah, it helps you stay, top of mind. And if you're, again, doing it, if you're getting your message out there in a way that, again, I keep saying provides value, but that's really what it comes down to. If you're providing value to someone, if you are reaching out to me on LinkedIn and maybe your first message is, you need to hire us for, that's an extreme example, but you need to do this or you need to do this. we're the ones for you. I'm probably going to be like, oh, whatever. But if someone reaches out to me and says, here's an article that I thought you would think, would be interesting to you, or I thought would interest you, I'm going to consider that,
Yeah.
And so I think it really is it comes back to approach. LinkedIn lets you to do that. And also, as you mentioned, Jonathan, just lets you do so many other things. So there's so many uses for it. There's so many, just so much that, could be cultivated from LinkedIn that's why we're a big fan. We're
Yes.
big fan for 2021.
We are big fans of LinkedIn, and it's something even us, right? There's always room for improvement. So, we generate a lot of relationships and, for ourselves and for our clients, and we hope to improve our use of the content, being able to publish more content and things like that. And we're constantly working on that, um, you know, internally, trying to figure out, how do we position ourselves to make it clear, how we help companies and how it works and the expectations that people should have if they do want us to help them. But yeah, so I think at the end of the day, though, it's all about, looking at it as a starting point. So, and that's what we say over and over when we talk to people. It's the starting point. It's not the only, you should we would never recommend that you put all your eggs in one basket, whether it be LinkedIn or ads or email or anything. It's all about building something that, over time you have a multi-channel system that's generating you leads at a cost effective, at a profitable rate, and you're able to generate clients from those leads, and then you're really diversified in that approach. So if one thing changes, then you don't turn off your entire system. So, but I do think, though, it is a great starting point for somebody who is looking at how things have changed, or maybe they were looking at some other platform and it didn't work out like they thought, or it was too expensive, it's not profitable. I think, it's something that you have to put time and resources into, and you know, we strongly recommend it. We see the value of it every day, and so it's something that we will continue pushing forwards through 2021. And that's, it's the key. It's about now. Now this is where I would put an effort there now, if I'm a B2B sales or business development person, or if I'm a company that's looking to figure out where should we be putting this effort. So that's going to wrap it today. We hinted at what we're going to talk about next, which it will actually be Friday. We're doing 2 lives this week, so today and Friday. Um, and so the next thing is taking some of these things that we were talking about how the power of LinkedIn, for instance, also email, gives you the ability to share your content. And so we're going to talk about a concept that we have been kicking around a lot internally here, and in some of our discussions that we've been having about using outbound tactics for inbound to drive inbound results. And so it's all about content and building authority, but it's tweaking the focus from paid distribution or from working on organic results and making sure that Google ranks you and gets you to your content, to being much more aggressive and proactive with distributing your content. So that's coming up on Friday. And otherwise, if you enjoyed this, or if you want to see that, make sure you subscribe and click the notification bell so you get the notification when we go live. As always, any comments, questions, thoughts you have, please feel free to ask them. We'll come back if we see them after the fact. We'll come back and answer them as soon as possible. And always, you can reach out on our website. It's right there, sparkoutbound.com. You can contact us through there. We'll be happy to discuss any of this with you, set up a demo if you want to see, how our campaigns work. And otherwise, we will be back on Friday talking about using outbound tactics to drive inbound results. See you later.